Hi, I'm Jane, and this is TCOTC's Tracking Orientation. Welcome. Tracking is a sport where your dog follows a path walked by another human, and where that human has dropped things that the dog needs to find. We're going to start teaching our dog this sport, and most dogs love it because they love to use their nose. Their noses are much, much better than ours, and they can follow paths walked by other people, other animals, for a long time after that event has occurred. We're going to start by teaching your dog to follow your trail. We're going to pair that, your walking, with some good, smelly treats. Once they've learned how to follow that, we'll eliminate the treats and merely reward them for finding what you've dropped. The equipment that you're going to need starts with a harness for your dog. Something like one of these. You need to have the harness that hooks in the back. This sport is not about loose leash walking. We want your dog actually pulling you through the field or across the parking lot or across wherever you're moving while they're following the track. And to do that, they need a harness that fits properly. The tracking harness for your dog should fit fairly snugly. Around the chest, you want to have some movement of their skin when you wiggle it. It is also, it needs to hook in the back, not in the front. This is where the leash will attach. If you're using a harness like this one, when you put your finger through the little O-ring in the front, you should be able to feel their breastbone. Good girl. Very good. Nice job. And it should go over the shoulders rather than across them. Across them is going to make it more difficult for them to lean into the harness and to pull you through the field. Another piece of equipment that you're going to need is a tracking line, someplace between 20 and 30 feet long. This is mine that I've used many, many times for several different dogs. You can buy them here at TCOTC. This one is 40 feet and it's $20. They can also be cotton, another one of my old ones that I use a lot. Whatever you have, it needs to be long enough that you can get far enough away from your dog. In the beginning, you're going to start fairly close, so a 6-foot leash is going to be just fine, but no flexibles or retractable leashes should be used. We want a line, not that retractable leash. And although I love biothane for leashes as well as collars for my dog, this is not the place to use a biothane line. We track in all kinds of weather, and if the biothane gets wet, it tends to get really slippery. So we recommend not using that for tracking. Depending on the size of your dog, you may want something much lighter weight, smaller, easier. Some dogs, especially the small ones, are very sensitive to that thing on their back. And so we want to make it easy for them. So something lighter, easier for them to pull. The other thing you're going to need are articles, things that you're going to drop, or whether it's for your own dog when you're laying the track, or for other students' dogs when you're laying their tracks. Usually we start with something simple. Old gloves, old socks, things like that. But don't forget other types of materials. So plastic, this is an old milk jug. This is leather, an old glasses case. Some more plastic and a metal thing, a little metal box. All of these are cast-offs, but they're great articles for your dog. And Playing the article game is an important aspect of your dog learning how to track. Most dogs love to actually follow the track with their nose, and sometimes they don't want to stop at whatever that thing is that the person dropped. So we have to teach them right from the beginning that the articles are as valuable as the track. So we're going to play the article game. You're going to spread some things out, and in the beginning, you're just going to click and reward your dog for noticing those articles, going up, snuffling them, doing whatever. But be sure you put the treat on the article. Eventually, you're going to want to have your dog either sit or down when they get to the article. So when you get to the point where the dog sees something on the floor and gets really excited and runs over to it, that's when you want to either cue or lure them into a sit or a down. Eventually, your dog may develop their own sort of article indication. It might be something like picking up the article and retrieving it for you. It might be bouncing around, jumping with excitement. Whatever it is, we want to make sure that the dog is telling us that they found something. I had one of my dogs that when her article indication was a little head nod. Makes it very difficult for me to see that when I'm 20 to 30 feet behind her and maybe in big, huge weeds where I can hardly see the dog at all. The goal is not only to follow that track of the person, but to find the things they dropped. Start by putting articles on the floor. And like Ren here, as soon as they get interested in whatever's on the floor, click and treat them on the article. We're not expecting any sort of behavior at this point at all, other than snuffling or noticing that article right when they find it. You click and treat. Here's Ren again, practicing in the backyard, doing exactly the same sort of thing. You click and treat on the article. Move the dog around, they see something else, they snuffle it or sniff it, click and treat on the article. Lots of practice to make those articles worthwhile for the pup to find. As they progress, you'll ask for a different behavior, a sit or a down. Here's Ren again. He finds the article, and then Anne cues him to sit when he finds it. He's clicked and treated for the sit behavior by the article. Here's Kina. Kina's a little more advanced. She's being asked to do down on the article and is beyond being cued for that behavior, and Katina is merely expecting her to do it without being told. So she finds the article, she goes up, she snuffles it, and then she offers the down, which is what gets clicked and treated. Good puppy, right there where the article is. Lots of treats. You'll also want to have some great smelly treats with you. This is the thing that we're going to pair with your path so that your dog starts to think that following where you walked is exciting. They get lots of good smelly things. Dry kibble is not going to work. Even if your dog is highly food motivated, we want to make it worth their while to follow your path and not that interesting little mouse or rabbit that ran through there. So bring lots of good, smelly treats. It could be something like leftover chicken or roast beef. It could be luncheon meat like hard salami. Anything that is really good and stinky and that they will love to follow. The other thing you'll want is to have some sort of a notebook and paper where you can take notes about what your path looks like and what your dog did on that path. This is really important as you progress through tracking, that you can see that my dog has problems with right turns. Lefts are easy, but right's a little harder. Or maybe the wind direction is making a big difference in how your dog is tracking. Taking notes of all those things are important that you can look back at it and then plan what you need to practice in the future. It can be something bigger like this, where you keep extra paper and pencil in your inside of it, or it could be just a little notebook where you can jot down those notes that you're taking for your dog. Finally, there's a couple other things that you're going to want to have. You need some flags. Flags are going to be used for marking your track. In the beginning, it's the start, and the end, it's going to be a straight track. As you get further along, we'll be adding some turns, and you'll be wanting to mark where those turns are so that you don't forget, and you can help your dog make the correct decision about where your track went. You'll also want to have some sort of watering device for your dog. It might be something like a bowl and a bucket that you carry, a small bottle of water that you carry. I use this where I can actually squirt into my dog's mouth. Tracking is hard work, and they get thirsty. As the temperatures rise, we try to work in the cool of the day, but sometimes even then they get hot and thirsty, and we want to make sure that they have plenty of water. This also helps them with tracking. If their nose and their mouth are dry, it makes it more difficult for them to actually smell things. And lastly, depending on your dog, you may want to get yourself some nice heavy gloves. If you have a big, strong tracking dog that loves this and wants to drag you, you may want to have something on your hands to protect them from the line. So good, heavy leather gloves are what's recommended. Another aspect of tracking is safety for both you and your dog. You want to make sure that you're following your vet's recommendation for treating your dogs for ticks. Ticks are a fact of life here in Minnesota, and tracking usually involves longer grasses where ticks like to hide. So wear something for yourself that you can see ticks on there, light-colored clothing. We recommend that you tuck your pant legs into some socks. It makes it much more easy for you to find them on your pants and pull them off. But also, your dog should have something, be treated in some way to repel ticks so that they don't end up getting sick from this wonderful sport. Next week, for week 1, bring those treats. If you have your harness in line, bring them along. There will also be someone there from TCOTC selling equipment if you need. Or you can go online and purchase them through our store, and they will be delivered to you on week 1 of your class. So bring those treats, wear appropriate clothing, bring water for your dogs, and we'll have a great time together.